Nice to see everybody, especially our young leadership. Why don't we start with a word of prayer so we get started tonight. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for this night and for those who are able to join us here. We continue to give you thanks for how you're guiding and directing Harmony Springs, the church, through this period of time, a pandemic and building project, a lot of things going on to oversee and manage, to pray about, and to continue to move forward. We give you thanks for how you have worked in our lives and in the life of this congregation, and we especially give you thanks for the opportunity to serve tonight at this unique position and place in Harmony Springs' life and existence. We ask that you might guide and direct us in a continued way tonight as we discuss and plan what's around the corner for us here at Harmony Springs. In all of this, we pray and ask in your name. Amen. All right. I sent out an email earlier today with my jottings on a rough agenda. So if you have that, I want to pull it up. I'll just kind of work through that tonight. And feel free to make commentary or let me know you want to interject by waving at me or getting my attention somehow, and I'll try to make sure I'm watching everybody here. Okay, first thing off the top of the list is our building project. So I was on vacation last week, and of course, the way all of this is going, they would start excavation and building the week that I'm on vacation. So Jennifer, I appreciate having local and nearby. As right off the bat, we were getting questions from a project manager, the things that we needed to try to give them some answers to. So the first thing last week was about the shed on our property, and Jennifer went out and unlocked it for them and took out the tiller that was in there for the garden. And my understanding from staff meeting, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, but they moved the shed to the corner of the property. And if I can here for a second, I'm going to bring up the drawing of the property so we're all on the same page. See if this works. Yeah, there we go. All right. Jennifer, you've been out there and looked at it. Can you kind of give us an idea on here where the shed sits now?
I'm going to go ahead and hold up a photo for just a second. If you look at it, you'll see about 80% to the side here. The shed is just above my finger by the house. So we have property that abuts house 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half. It is way over there by house 5 or maybe house 6. So it's just in that far, far, far south corner toward the houses. So in your drawing, it would be in the bottom right-hand corner.
Gotcha.
On the other side of the parking lot, and maybe even, I didn't go close to it because I didn't want to drive my car that far into the dirt, but it could be even up toward that little spring, you know, versus far, far, far back to the houses. I took this photo from about, just a couple hundred feet into the driveway. So it's a pretty far photo.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. And I wanted for us all to look at this picture because these are a couple interesting things to know too. So on this diagram, this was the diagram that the civil engineer put together to designate the cities or open space. The acreage was a little bit over an acre or something of open space they wanted us to keep and maintain on the property, and we agreed to do that. So like at the top, or if you're looking at the screen on the right-hand side there, which would be part of our property against all of those houses Jennifer was referring to. It says open space A on there, and then along the other side would be the north side of the property, open space B. So the agreement that we signed, it's if you're interested in it, I can send you a copy too, but basically it's just a couple paragraphs about as narrow as possible and not developing on it. So like we can't really put parking lot or anything like that, but they kind of just list out all the stuff we could do with it. So there's all that. And then the other thing to draw your attention to is the marked out red on the north side of the property, which would be opposite of this open space B, is where our project manager suggested that they move all of the boulders that they ran into this first week. And all of the boulders were located right where the retention pond is supposed to go, and that is the first thing that they're working on. So far, I gave them start moving those boulders and rocks all over there, so that gives us time to figure out what we want to do with them, I guess. Worst case scenario, I guess we just bury them where they are, and they'll just sit there. Other ideas that people have talked about and thrown around are, trying to find landscaping companies, finding other people who want them, would come and get some, and or using some of the nicer ones or what we want to pick out for some of our own landscaping on the property. But if they're sitting there, they're out of the way for all the development, and our excavators can continue excavating the retention basin and moving on to the next projects that they need to do. So I didn't sign a change order necessarily on that. They just verbally told me that they would just figure what time they had in moving the excavator. They had to move all boulders and stones over there, and it sounded like we'd just put that into whatever their cost is when we get to that point when they're all done. So we may be able to. I posted them on Facebook just to see what might be out there, and I got a guy that's interested in a couple. He said a couple hundred, as many as a couple hundred of them. I don't know how many are there and what size he's looking for, but he's willing to pay us for them, so we might be able to offset any extra costs we incur from the excavators by maybe unloading some to somebody. So sort of a specialty thing that somebody might want, but if we look around enough and put the word out there, interest in them, I guess.
Joel?
Yeah, Debbie?
Just to be sure that I understand, is the retention pond the entire green area to the north side of the property that looks like on your drawing looks like a pond? Or is it?
Yes, I
Are
believe
you able
that.
to point out where that is?
Let me zoom in on it here a little bit so we can see. Yeah, right at the top of the screen here. Is that what you're referring to? But there's this down here too. So that is a good question.
Yeah, the print on the picture is too small for me to read, but I was wondering, I'm assuming the green crisscross areas are all the wetlands. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And I didn't know if the retention pond is on the north side of the property, or would it be on the south side?
That's where all the dust was on the north side this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because the way this looks, I'm having trouble differentiating these two sort of retention circular, drawing spots on here. So that is a good question. I can ask and see see which it actually is and get back to you on that. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a great answer on that yet. We'll have to look, and maybe after a day or so, we'll be able to clearly tell which one it is based on their work on the property.
Right. That's okay. Thank you.
Could that open space be, or whatever those open spaces are, be ball fields?
Although
I don't know whether they need them. They have so many parks.
What's your question again, Janice? Sorry, I was pulling up
In
the picture.
the open spaces that we've been asked to maintain or whatever,
Yes.
they be made into ball fields or a walking trail or something like that, or is that development?
That's a good question. Let me one sec here. Let's see. I will pull that up.
It would just be something to ask, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Did I bring that up properly? This is the open space restriction agreement that I signed. So it's interesting. I can email this to you all, but it was interesting kind of as I didn't read it word for word yet, but like down here in the middle, it says no buildings or other structures, including but not limited to decks, patios, steps, fences, shall be erected on the conservation area. And
No dumping.
we have garbage, waste, tree limbs, branches, landscaping debris. So, I mean, they kind of have a specific thing they're looking for there, but I can put that in the email to you all so you have it too here. It's interesting to read through. It'd be nice if some of this stuff to have another set of eyes on some of these documents too, to make sure that, years from now, somebody around knows all this we're agreeing to right now, so that when we talk about developing somewhere on the property and somebody throws that idea out, somebody can say, oh, I remember that we agreed not to do that, or something along those lines. Any other questions about that's pretty much up to date on the building project. I think they're still just on the excavation phase. So currently that's where we sit. All right, one second. All right, you should have that email in your email now. Peruse at your own leisure, I guess. All right, let me jump back. All right, I attached to the email too, and I put on Facebook today the time-lapse video that Jen sent me through Dan of sort of a day's worth of excavation work, which is kind of cool. So it made me excited to see what time-lapse video will look like further into the project, because I think it's going to be kind of neat. So I put that up there. I think that's it on the building project. I'm switching back to the screen to see you all now. Anything else on the building project? Sorry. Moving on. Okay. Staff meeting today, we started discussing some ministry planning. We're starting to I think with the turn of school and all that, we're starting to think about what our schedule and programming is going to look like in the fall into winter here. And before I left on vacation, we preliminarily discussed a few things. And just to keep everybody updated on the same page, I'll go through those. We have been working on, as a joint project, Donna, Jennifer, and I, putting together a group of things that could be another delivery to our church members. People reacted, we thought, positively from us delivering the lilies around Easter time. So we thought that this time of year, making some contact like that might be kind of fun to do and of benefit to the church as well. So we ordered some more of those reusable shopping bags that are exactly like what we used last Christmas when we were collecting for our blessings in a backpack. My thought was that we could fill those up with these items that we have in the list in the email there, and then either leave them on people's front porches or hang them on their doorknobs if they're not home or that kind of thing. So we may be able to use a similar group of people that made the deliveries on the last round. But some of the other things that we wanted to include in there, we also ordered small bottles of hand sanitizer that have the church's name and logo on it. And then Donna has those like pre-sealed individual communion sets. So we thought we'd put so many, kind of divvy them up and put so many in each one so that people have those for participation on Sundays. And then we have copies of the book that I've been preaching, the gospel. And by the time we are shooting for doing this, we have a screen printer working on an order of shirts for us as well, with new shirts with the church's name on it. I gave him the previous order that we have ordered as a church. It's been a little while since we did that, but I thought that would get us pretty close to making sure we had the right sizes and everything for everyone. So that one may be a little tricky because we got to try to figure out what size everybody needs, but we could probably do that. Carol has been working with Donna to order copies of the children's Bible. That is what the curriculum we've been using with the kids uses. So Donna has those. She ordered one copy of that children's Bible for each family that has kids that are participating. And then we thought we would, there are a number of things that we can include in a printed newsletter, so we could throw that in the bag also to update people on the building progress and programming we're talking about doing here in the fall, updates on the any financial campaigns we have. And then the next topic we need to discuss tonight also that we just started discussing this morning is our congregational meeting coming up on the second Sunday in November. So before I move on to that, that's all on the bags. Are we all feeling good about that? Ideas, suggestions, concerns, anything like that?
Joel, I'd like to add something to the bag if we can.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this later, but at staff today, we talked about getting a prayer initiative activity started in the fall. And maybe the prayer card that we want people to pray could be included in the bag to go out to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. I wrote that down. Yeah, I was thinking it'd be kind of neat to do a little card like that people could either, put right on their refrigerator or mirror or something like that to help remind them to do
Yes.
that. Do you want to, I didn't necessarily designate a place for that, but you want to kind of explain what we discussed on that for everybody and give them an idea of what we're talking about?
Sure. if you remember the book that we read, Floodgates, Holy Momentum for a Fearless Church, and it had a lot of different prayer ideas. And at our leadership meeting in January of this year, that seems like eons ago after what we've been through with COVID. But in January, leadership discussed different prayer ideas. We thought we could get started, and we started to implement some of those, but then kind of got hit with COVID and also had more of a focus on making sure we were getting our building started and groundbreaking and all of those things. So to start off the fall, now that we've had our groundbreaking, we thought it would be a good idea to start with the first prayer initiative to get everybody praying the same prayer at the same time. One of the ideas that everybody seemed to like was what the book called the 8-11 prayer. Only ours will be, if it sounds good to you, 7:29, either 7:29 a.m. or 7:29 p.m. The 7:29 representing July 29th, 7:29, which was our groundbreaking, our new beginning. And our suggestion is that we pray our mission statement. Pray that God helps us to cultivate hope and love by living in the way of Jesus. And, have that mission statement in prayer form on the prayer card. And then people can choose if they're early risers, 7:29 in the morning or 7:29 in the evening, but with the hope and explanation and communication to the congregation that we will all try to be praying at the same time, either morning or evening, and praying the same prayer for our church to truly put into operation, if you will, the mission statement that we have for ourselves going forward. So that's our first prayer initiative idea from Sue Nelson's book, or Sue Nelson Kibbe's book for the fall.
Sounds good. Thoughts on that? Anybody? All right, hearing none and seeing thumbs up, we'll move forward with that. Thanks, Debbie. Appreciate that. All right, I'm skipping through a little bit here, but so we've been discussing trying to kind of follow the school year starting, and the Sunday after Labor Day would be the 13th. Trying to do a couple of special things on Sunday mornings to get people all kind of on the same page and excited about what's going on at church. So we were discussing on the 13th, restarting the children and youth programming, and debuting on the 13th on that Sunday morning, the montage video we have of people giving well wishes for the building project. And I just jotted this down, but if we get it together, we could also start that 7:29 prayer initiative. If we put the cards in there, then we definitely can start on the 13th to encourage people to do that. And then on the 20th, I thought to space things out a little bit, we could promote us debuting the first virtual choir project that Terry has almost finished, or is finished and waiting on us to do it. And the other project we have that's pretty much ready for us to promote and put out there is the podcast, Harmony Springs Gives Voice, website and those recordings. So if we were shooting for the 13th and the 20th to do those two things, kind of keeps us on at least, the regular church schedule, at least, even though everything else in the world is completely different than it has been. So there's that. Okay, I'm coming back around to the congregational meetings. So we were discussing today a little bit, I've been reading a number of churches that are discussing having their annual congregational meeting virtual instead of in person. And from what I've read, as long as our constitution or bylaws doesn't call for an in-person meeting, virtual seems to satisfy the requirement. And Debbie and I kind of looked over our wording, and we don't have anything that specific in our wording about our annual meeting, just what needs to be accomplished at that meeting. So Debbie and I and the other staff that we were discussing with think that we are okay to go ahead and try to conduct our meeting on the same Sunday we typically do, which would be November 8th after service, but just keep it virtual like this instead of an in-person meeting. But one thing we thought might be of benefit is if we all sort of officially tonight voted on that and just said we're going to make the congregational meeting virtual. So I guess I'll bring that idea to you all to think about and give me your feedback and input if you want.
I can't think of any reason why that would be a problem. We've done pretty well virtually so far.
Yeah.
We just thought it would be a good idea maybe if leadership approved this and then recommended it to the entire congregation when we announced the congregational meeting. Just thought that would be a good idea to give them that recommendation.
Any other thoughts or concerns on that? We did realize we'll have to think through some of the logistics on, if people want to talk, that kind of thing. There'd be a little, probably more interaction than there typically is on Sunday morning. So we may have to, have people make a hand signal or something, or say their name, turn their mic off and say their name if they want to speak or say something. So we'll have to kind of work out those logistics, but I think it can be done. I think we can figure that out. Okay, all in favor of our annual congregational meeting for 2020 being virtual instead of in person, place your right hand on the Bible. No, yes, raise your hand, I guess, right? Thank you, Jackie. All right, there we go. Motion passes. We'll plan on doing that then. So we'll put that on the calendar Sunday, November 8th. And then as I was thinking through that, I was beginning to think of things that we should, because they may take us a little bit longer than typical, we should start thinking about for that meeting. And Chuck is not here, so I can have this conversation with him to try to email the trustees. But I think around the corner here, the trustees should probably have their own individual meeting to just do a health checkup on our finances as a church and get our minds around what a potential budget for 2021 would look like, and stewardship campaign that Chuck had mentioned. So I will email Chuck and we'll try to send out an email to the trustees to schedule that here coming up. The other thing that had crossed my mind that we hadn't discussed yet, Debbie, was the nominations for leadership. Things have been very interesting with COVID and all of that. So I don't know. I'm just throwing this out. We don't have to decide now. But one thought that did cross my mind was just potentially recommending that we freeze everybody where they are and just continue that through the end of the building project. But if some people want to bow out at this point, they could certainly do that as well. Or we could just continue on, finding the people that are rotating off and adding new people on. So I don't know. Those are the thoughts bouncing around in my head. So you can kind of think about that, Debbie, and we can run that by Chuck as well. Then the three of us can kind of get our heads together and bring a recommendation maybe for what we want to do back to the leadership before that meeting.
Joel?
Yeah.
If people are willing to continue in their current leadership role, at least through next year, just kind of because of COVID and how crazy things have been, unless someone says, I really need to have a break and I need to take my time off, maybe if people agree to serve one more year, as you say, just a kind of a frozen in place, and then at the end of 2021, do the normal nominations. But
Right.
obviously, if any of you feel that, if your term was going to end at the end of 2020 and you need for it to end, then we'll find replacements. But I hadn't thought about that either, but I think that would be a good solution at this time. Anyway, everybody think about it and
Yeah.
let Joel know.
Everybody's pulling the COVID card. It's not unique.
Yeah, it's true. Nice to hear your voice, Cheryl. Thanks for interjecting.
Least I can do.
Yeah, there you go. All right. The only other thing I jotted down that might be something we could look at between now and then is the ministry team organization that we have, the sort of temporary ones we've put together here lately, and our ongoing ones, just to revisit that and see what we want that to look like. But we certainly have a little bit of time here to figure all that out. So I will keep moving on here on the list. Jennifer, maybe I'll give you a few minutes to kind of explain this one, but Jennifer has a friend who is interested in potentially taking over the management of the garden. And Jennifer, maybe you give everybody a little bit of background on that and what our thoughts are there.
So I was thinking about what we're going to do for a garden next year. And I know that we want to jump into that pretty quickly. So my thought was that we would find somebody else who could help manage it and move forward for a longer term. And maybe I could assist with someone else next year. And Christy Doring was someone who came to mind. She's actually a friend of mine, Christy with a K. I was not specific about that earlier.
Sorry.
That's all right. So some people in Green might recognize her name. She did, in fact, have a failed mayor run, but she didn't work terribly hard at doing it. She just wanted to point out that others could run for mayor without a lot of expertise, and that as much came through. Anyway, Christy and I we met through the Moms Club, but we really got to know each other well through the Akron Library, Summit County Library downtown, Master Gardener training. And it wasn't to be a Master Gardener, but it was training by Ohio State Extension and other Master Gardeners. It was a 6 or 8 week thing that I did 2-3 years back. And Christy went to that for her own knowledge on a personal note versus me going for the church to learn how to run a garden. And it's really something that she feels strongly about. And so Joel and I had a conversation a while back, and he said it'd be great to get, 2 of us working on that, me to show her the ropes and let her know how to do it. And then she can maybe even take over the summer afterward. So that's the thought. And what else did you want me to share on that, Joel?
No, I think that's good. Just to kind of introduce that idea is to keep everybody in the loop that we're discussing with her and working on. I think if we want to pursue that, I think the next step would be just to maybe set up a virtual meeting or some sort of phone call with her and you and I, and we could just kind of discuss what she envisions or might want to see from it, and then we can go from there, I guess. Questions or comments on that one?
Maybe in the final excavation, Jennifer, it could be cleared off or made ready for planting somehow while we still have equipment there.
No, that definitely could be possible. It wouldn't be a whole lot of work for them to run a machine over it if they had something like that out in the spring. That's the real question is.
Yeah, that's true.
Now would stay, but I mean, we've cleared it before, and it doesn't, if we get to it quickly enough, we can run a mower on it just before it's all this tall. Another thing is the plan for next summer is to host the garden pretty much the way we did a couple years back, the very last year that we had the garden. So we'll make it approximately the same size. We'll, approximately the same number of plants and so on. but nothing new. We won't add a CSA quite yet. We won't add anything, maybe open a few more spots for personal rental, you know, that people can rent a space as a community garden if we have that room, because that's nothing, no skin off our nose, as they say. So, but otherwise, it's sort of just to remind ourselves what it looks like and how it goes before we really blow it up into something new and different and extra. That one of the reasons that Christy came to mind was not only because I knew her through the garden thing, but Christy had come to me earlier this year that she was looking to start her own garden nonprofit and was asking me to be part of that, knowing that I do stuff with the church. And she's looking to get produce to low-income people. She was talking about the Blessings in a Backpack folks. And when I told her some of our thoughts and plans on that was to offer Blessings people a free space. And then they come once a week. There's a half-hour, 20-minute, half-hour education of some sort. And then after that, they would help us do our harvesting or weeding or whatever there is to do. So when I told her that that was one of our thoughts, we have a lot of thoughts and sort of no plans in that sense. You know, there's a lot of places that we want to go with it, but nothing is really mapped out, you know, 5 years from now, because we've been on hold because of the building, of course. And so when I did have a conversation with her, why bring it to anybody else if she's not even interested? And she was really, really interested. And I said, you know, a part of that is you can do what you wanted to do with our name, our clout, our, you know, backing, but do it for our garden, do it for us. And she was really excited about that idea.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll see where that discussion leads or goes, I guess. But it is good. I think it would be interesting and good timing to begin to think about what a more permanent garden will look like. And while they're still working on the property, like Janice is saying, we may be able to kind of plot out where it's going to be and come up with some more solid ideas on, you know, how we want to kind of make it look as nice as possible on the property as we put the building up. So if she's willing to jump in and help us kind of put in some of that work to plan out what it looks like and that kind of thing, I'm certainly willing to discuss that with her. So all right, last thing on my list that these are all things I was thinking about on the, what was it, 7-hour drive back from Nashville, Tennessee. So I was thinking about what Christmas will look like for us this year at Harmony Springs. And Emily and I were bouncing ideas off of each other. And the one idea I had was potentially, I thought it might be kind of fun to like rent a big tent and some warmers or something and put out some hay bales and like on and do something actually on our property to sort of see what we could come up with. It's a bit of a challenge because I had that sort of rough idea in my mind, but then I was thinking like we could put a Christmas tree in the middle and like kind of make it like a you know, carol sing. But then I was thinking, well, you can't. We could sing, but we'd have to wear masks, so then it'd be like muffled. I don't know. It's you know, with coronavirus, once you get into the logistics of things, it gets real tricky. So I don't know. That's the rough idea I have right now. But if anybody has any better ideas or other thoughts on that, I would like to do something for Christmas Eve, and maybe something different than just, you know, I don't know. It just, in my mind, it doesn't seem like a virtual Christmas Eve service would be all that fun to do. Maybe it would be. Maybe we could find ways to creatively make it fun. I don't know. But I was also thinking that by the time December comes around, they're probably going to be hopefully a lot further along in the building project, and maybe at least have sort of everything sort of roughed on the property so that we could get in there and park and move around a little bit. And it might be kind of neat to actually do something on the property even before the building is completed. So I don't know. That's my rough idea. If you have thoughts on that, let me know. Or if you have some other brainstorm about what we can do for Christmas or Christmas Eve, I'm more than willing to think about it. Yeah, a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday this year, so at least we're not on the weekend like it has been the last few years, where we're doing one thing right after the other. Okay. That sort of in my mind takes us through the end of the year, which would be great if we, are making it that far, because then we're looking at the next thing around the corner would be hopefully looking at building completion and all the stuff associated with that. So if we can do a fabulous job with all of that through between now and the end of the year, we'll be cooking with gas, I guess, as they say.
I would say one thing about the Advent season, it doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas Eve. But if we're doing worship in the way we have been doing it through this sort of video approach, sort of the opening to the Muppet Show is the best example I've seen of it, with everyone sort of in their quadrant. Christmas does provide some opportunities for things that we might not otherwise get to do. It would be pretty easy to show Christmas ornaments, or even certain aspects of Christmas home decoration, things of that nature. Now, that could be part of a Sunday thing. It doesn't have to be the 23rd, but there might be things about Christmas as a unique holiday when it comes to visuals and close-ups and stuff of that nature. I bet you we probably have at least 24 different versions of manger scenes, if I were guessing. So there might be ways of kind of getting, by that point, if we were doing this way, we'd probably be really eager to be outside on the 23rd.
Yeah. That's the thinking there, Greg. That just makes me start to think about some creative ideas we could have by just the fact that people are in their own homes. I think gives us an opportunity to do some things we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So yeah, that's a great idea. Wrote that down.
Yeah, I was thinking about nativity scenes as well. The nativity scene tour by family.
Yeah, how cool would that be to let people, pick something from their home and their Christmas decoration and talk about it, or
special to them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm writing this down. Okay, that's great. Well, I'm at the end of my list. What else? What else is on your minds? All right. Well, that's a good sign, I guess. It sounded like from the check-in staff meeting we had today that the last couple of Sundays went as well as could be, with Jennifer, thank you, and Kevin filling in. So that sounds great. Each week we've been kind of discussing ways that we can, it seems like each week we come up with at least one thing to try to do to improve the Sunday morning login and all that. So we're going to keep experimenting. The one thing we're really trying to hit on right now is we're trying to experiment with the method that we play Terry's music through it, because it seems like a lot of people are, by the time it gets to you, it's all jumbled and skipping around. So we have some ideas on how to start narrowing that down to figure out what's causing that. But it's kind of a trial and error, where one week we have to try one thing, and then if that doesn't do it, the next week we'll have to try something in addition to that. So we're trying to tap into our tech people to figure out what the highest probability is causing that. And on that particular one, this coming week, we're going to try, instead of playing the link to the YouTube, which is what I typically do, I'm going to put all the videos on my local computer and play it that way, to see if eliminating the fact that we're playing it offline to my computer and then sending it out to everybody else, if we eliminate one of those steps, if that might speed it up and smooth it out a little bit. So we will experiment with that and see what we
Well, this past week, I think it was the best it has been. whoever did what last Sunday.
Okay.
Came through better for us.
Okay.
Well, Janice, this most recent Sunday, the 16th, at least at my house, it was a little distorted. It was the week before for me that was perfect on the 9th. It was like it was no problem at all, no distortion, no.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks for us have been better than whatever
Okay. Yeah, and I think it was especially bad the last week I was here before vacation, because I was also experimenting with the website we use for the groundbreaking to live stream to Facebook and YouTube at the same time as we were meeting. And that additional requirement of my computer, I think, caused everything to slow down and break up more. So we definitely, I'm definitely not going to add that back in until we figure out how to smooth it out before and without that. So yeah, it's amazing that we've been at this week by week now for how long, and we're still working at it, but it is what it is. So we'll keep trying to tweak it to get it to be as smooth as possible. All right. Anything else? Miss Carol, you're very distracting over there. It's hard to keep my attention on what we're supposed to be talking about.
On my Brady Bunch screen, Carol is Alice.
Yeah.
She's right in the middle of mine too. Joel, do you still have your sweet kitty?
All are lucky I don't have my microphone this time because this child's crying.
Yep. All right. Well, I think why don't we end in prayer, and we'll be on about our night. Thank you all for being a part of the meeting tonight. Appreciate it. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for this exciting time to be a part of the ministry and work at Harmony Springs. Thank you for the privilege of serving this church and its people and serving you through it. We continue to give you thanks and are grateful for how you are leading us and blessing us as a congregation to continue to be about the mission you're calling us to. Thank you for all you do for us, and for each person here and each person involved in Harmony Springs. We ask your blessing and pray for each of them as we bring this meeting tonight to a close. In your name we pray all of these things. Amen and amen. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll keep at it, keep on, and have a good night. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Thank you all. Good night, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
good night.